We've done a lot of thinking and talking about the labor shortage as it pertains to low-wage work since the start of the pandemic, and really thinking about how companies can compete with the likes of an Amazon or a Starbucks, these companies who have massive balance sheets and can lift the floor when it comes to minimum wage, and how companies that don't have that kind of balance sheet power can compete. And it's been interesting, of course, to look at the labor shortage and the talent dynamics from that perspective. But here's a story in the Wall Street Journal that talks about how chip makers are having to contend for talent as well as their industry faces a labor shortage. And what's interesting is that it's the same labor dynamics, so the same labor shortage and the same issues that we've been talking about for months and months here at Daggerfinn, but flipped on its head, where these companies that rely on highly skilled workers are also facing a shortage when it comes to being able to find qualified workers or being able to attract the level of talent that they need away from high-paying careers in technology and over to chip manufacturing for one. And so chip manufacturing, of course, just as a little bit of macro background, primarily is done out of Taiwan, at least the high-quality stuff. And companies, as a result of the supply chain issues that they've seen over the last few years, have migrated. Apple for one, with its M1 chip, have migrated to doing things in-house. But traditionally, Taiwan has been the hub of semiconductor manufacturing globally. And when you deal with the geopolitical aspects of labor, not only do we then, for conversations purposes, have to deal with the labor shortage on our own shores here in the U.S., but we've also got to deal with manufacturers or suppliers in their countries dealing with a labor shortage too, and then the aggregated effect that has globally. And so in this article, I think it's a really interesting piece that looks at how competitive it is for these companies to find the talent that they need, because if we take a look at the different facets of where the labor shortage is coming from, one is education. These chip manufacturers rely on highly qualified, highly skilled workers that typically have, higher degrees or doctorate degrees, and schools they contend aren't graduating the number of workers that they need to match up to the demand that's happened over, even just as a snapshot, the last 18 months, when you think about how many electronics people have bought globally, and, electronics go into cars and different things. So you think of how much demand has skyrocketed in the semiconductor space. The schools aren't graduating individuals, just at the base level, but individuals with the skills that these companies need or these manufacturers need to deal with this kind of demand. And so you've got a supply issue there, just inherent. But then you've also got the idea that, individuals then, the leaders of these companies look at immigration for kind of the next level, which is, can we bring in the kind of workers that we need to plug the gap, to plug the space, the delta between the number of workers we need and the number of workers we have. And you also have an issue there where, Taiwan has an issue in terms of being able to attract highly skilled workers from around the world to Taiwan. But you look at the U.S. too, and the companies here are saying, do we have the ability to attract, workers globally to our country? Typically, traditionally, that the answer is yes. But do the immigration policies or do the policies at a federal level match up to what companies need in order to deal with the demand that they have? And so the labor shortage, I think we've tried to pinpoint as many different catalysts or as many different places that we probably need to band-aid over as an economy in order to get us moving again in the right direction. But it's really interesting from an employer brand standpoint and an organizational development standpoint to look at how the labor shortage is catalyzed or it looks through different lenses in the economy. And so seeing an article like this that talks about how talent at the highly educated level is also just as dire, it's just as painful for these organizations and employers to find talent at that level as it is for individuals who or vying for the kind of minimum wage roles, you can start to see how there's a laddering effect, or there's the labor shortage it affects the economy at so many different levels. And one of my recurring themes is that we haven't done enough to address the underlying issues that are triggering this labor shortage. And so, yes, we can affect minimum wage. We can pay people marginally more money, but that doesn't seem to be working. We can maybe apply pressure on schools to make sure that they're graduating or guiding individuals or guiding college-aged kids into, careers that are higher productivity for the economy. I mean, there's so many different places that we need to apply a little bit of pressure in order to see the kind of moves that we need to make as an economy. And this is globally too, to where we can start addressing the labor shortage. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in this kind of no man's land for, I think, the foreseeable future, because it's one thing to free up all the supply chain bottlenecks, but it's another thing to be able to, deal with the increase in consumer demand, or, whether it's an increase or decrease, what that means at a labor level for all these organizations globally. So something to look for is whether we're able to close the gap at any of the levels, highly qualified, the middle in terms of education, and then kind of skilled workers, so the minimum wage workers. Are we able to close the gap at any of those levels in the next 12 months? I think that'll be a real indicator as to the overall health of the economy from a labor standpoint going forward, because it's easy to forget that the stock market is one thing, but it's very cool, or it's trendy to point to the stock market as an indicator to the health of the economy, but the stock market sits on top of what is the productivity of an economy, and those prices are only reflective of a small portion of what is happening at a country level and at a global level when it comes to buying and selling and manufacturing goods that need to get moved around. And so the labor shortage, I think, is unless we do certain things as an economy and as governments globally, we're going to continue to see this problem going forward. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like button and then also subscribing, just so that you get all these updates as they come out.